Someone make it make sense.
Probably a couple.
Okay, hello, squirrel friends. So, couple quick things. So last night I had the recap scheduled for days 3 and 4. That includes the day that Sarah took the stand. I have rescheduled that for tonight, and for a couple reasons. First of all, last night I was still processing what happened at the end of day of court yesterday with all the videos that came in, and I have a lot of thoughts, and it really changes how, at least for me, how I look at like a lot of what has happened in this trial, what we knew about this case, and her testimony on the stand. So I wanted to make sure that, you know, we could kind of have that context, but also because I knew that these text messages were going to be happening this morning. So I figured, since this is the very end of the evidence, this is here we are at the end of the state's rebuttal case, and the defense is not going to be presenting a rebuttal case. So after these text messages, the state will rest its rebuttal case, and then they will be having the charging conference followed by closing arguments. So I figured better to wait until we have these text messages, because I can only imagine what we might be seeing after the videos that happened yesterday. And that way we will do the recap for days 3 and 4 tonight. And what will be interesting, again, because that's going to include Sarah on the stand, but it's also going to include all of the defense expert witnesses that testified on day 4. And all of, you know, a lot of that testimony looked really good for Sarah, right? In terms of the battered spouse defense. It's going to be really interesting going back through that testimony now that we have seen these videos. And for anyone who hasn't seen the videos, we will talk about sort of what was going on, so that you have that context. But we will watch those videos when we get to the following recap, which will be the recap of days 5 and 6. That's when we will actually watch those videos together. So hopefully that makes sense. But here we are with the text messages that Mr. J is going to be reading into the record to finish out the state's rebuttal case.
Exhibit. For purposes of publication, I'm going to go by page number and date unless something requires more specificity. And for to and from, I'm going to just use the name of the contact if one exists, or the phone number if one doesn't. On page 1, creation time for notes, 7:49, asking Jorge or George not to be despicable to me, making more drink after he guzzled his and I shared mine. On page 2, date March 8th, 2018. You are now in a relationship with Jorge or George on Facebook. Metadata entry 100014, etc. for Jorge Torres to Sarah Boone, owner. Page 3, May 21st, 2019, from 407-716-8684 to Melissa. And he can still live here, correct? Or until I decide to finally get him out if he doesn't clean up his act after tomorrow. On page 9, May 30th, 2019, from a contact labeled as Mom, Jorge or George, to 407-716-8684, which I will just refer to as owner in future references. Where is my clippers in the gray box? From owner to mom, Jorge, all capitals, dumpster, separate message, like you, separate message, so is your 2 shirts, separate message, no more Rick and Morty, a response from contact mom, Jorge, to owner, okay. From owner to mom, Jorge, Lucas cried when he saw the adventure fund was gone, thank you, no wonder you're out, fuck off. From owner, he's the one that broke it because you took it. From owner, wanted to go on an adventure. On to page 10. From owner, be proud, feel good. You made my, quote unquote, our son cry. Cheese stick, Lucas, your kids, get the fuck out of my life and my son's. No one, spinster,
Oh.
good.
Okay, I'm going to back it up just a second because I think he was trying to, the mom, Jorge. Hold on. Back it up just a second.
Thank you. No wonder you're out. Fuck off. Separate message, referred to as owner.
Okay.
On page 9, May 30th, 2019, from a contact labeled as mom, paren, Jorge or George, to 407-716-8684, which I will just refer to as owner in future references. Where is my clippers in the gray box? From owner to mom, Jorge, all capitals, dumpster, separate message, like you.
Okay, so here's what I think is going on here. It's confusing because it sounds like there's like 3 people in this conversation. He says from owner and then to mom, Jorge. So from owner, that's Sarah Boone, okay? To mom, Jorge. So what we can glean from this is that this would be how she had his contact saved in her phone. I don't know what the mom part is. That's odd. Mom, and then in parentheses, Jorge. One thing I will say, you might notice that I'm saying and he's saying Jorge. I've mentioned many times that I thought, well, it was always a weird thing. Like, why is she saying George? But everyone has been calling him George, right? And I pointed out on day 1 of trial when Jorge's brother took the stand, Juan, Juan, he gets on the stand. He has to say his name. He says Juan, okay? And then when Sarah Boone was on the stand, I don't remember if it was on direct or cross, but she was actually asked by either her attorney or Mr. J. She was actually asked something about, when did you talk to Juan, right? Or something like that, right? And she says, I called John or whatever, but she says John. So even after she's heard him in court say his name was Juan, and even after he was called Juan by the attorney who was questioning her, she says John. And at that moment, I was like, hang on. And I think I timestamped it actually, because I was like, this would make a lot of sense because it seems like there's some racial undertones going on between her and his family. And it would make sense then if she calls Jorge George and Juan John. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing was in the videos yesterday with the body cam and all that, you could hear law enforcement calling him Jorge. So what I did was I have a Spanish keyboard on my phone because, I can speak a little bit of Spanish every now and again. I might use it. So I actually went to my Spanish keyboard to type in a text message and I did voice to text and I said Jorge because I wanted to see if there was any alternate spelling that it would have. And the spelling for Jorge is Jorge. So for me, this confirms that he is Jorge. And what a shame that this whole time, everyone's been calling him George because that's what Sarah says, as if because Sarah says it, it's correct. And so my guess is the prosecutor, and that includes the state, right? But why has he switched? My guess is that maybe, he hadn't noticed or had, forgotten or whatever, that in those body cam videos, law enforcement calls him Jorge. And maybe he hadn't realized. I don't know. But he's saying Jorge, but he's been calling him George, and everyone's been calling him George this entire trial up until today, which is expected to be the last day of trial. So that just adds to the heartbreak of this entire situation. And the other thing I will note is that when, Jorge's brother took the stand, which so far is the only family member of his to have taken the stand, when his brother took the stand, he wasn't asked something like, so what was your brother's name, where he had a chance to respond. I remember that very specifically. He was asked, and do you know George Torres? And anyone who saw that testimony would understand that he wouldn't have corrected that prosecutor. He was nervous. He was petrified. He's grieving. This is traumatic. And he was, I felt, my heart went out to him. But in other words, the prosecutor said, do you know George Torres? And in other words, it's like, he knows who he's referring to. And so he's like, my brother, right? So no one's been given an opportunity from his family to say his name out loud in court yet. But anyway, I just wanted to note that in case anyone's wondering why the prosecutor is saying Jorge. I think he's always been Jorge. And I think that, and even Brian Boone says George, but he heard it from Sarah. So her influence is still happening. We're seeing it here in trial.
Separate message. So is your 2 shirts. Separate message. No more Rick and Morty. A response from contact mom Jorge to owner. Okay. From owner to mom Jorge. Lucas cried when he saw the adventure fund was gone. Thank you. No wonder you're out. Fuck off. From owner. He's the one that broke it because you took it. From owner. Wanted to go on an adventure. On to page 10. From owner. Be proud. Feel good. You made my, quote unquote, our son cry. Cheese stick. Lucas. Your kids. Get the fuck out of my life and my son's. No one. Spinster. Good. For nothing. Dumpster diver. That's what you are, and the rest of you. Later on this same page, owner to mom Jorge, get all of you. Mean, selfish, fuck all you. Your firstborn is a joke. Going on to page 11, same date of May 30th, 2019, from owner to mom Jorge, get the fuck out of my life. Lucas 2, bad influence. From Jorge to owner, I am, as you can see,
So
drink your life away.
You might notice that there's some blank spaces where it's responses. I think some of the earlier responses came in, but these have been redacted in terms of his responses. I would assume, there's hearsay exceptions. My guess is that the responses were considered to be not relevant, were objected to for relevancy. And it would have been sustained in this case for those to be redacted. Unless the state didn't want them in the first place.
Owner to mom Jorge, your kids are 2. Yuck. Shucks, I only have 1. Beaters, your 3 together. Yuck. Going on to page 12, from owner to mom Jorge, still dated 5/30/2019. Gross, and all the time, gross. Mom Jorge to owner, I love that guy. You're the one who kicked me out. Owner to Jorge, mom, finally, get your shot together and check me out in 2 to 3 months. Hope you're there. Unless I find someone better. Shit, together. From mom Jorge to owner, are you serious? Owner to mom Jorge, that's what happens? No. Mom Jorge to owner, I'm helping out dad right now. Call you in a few. Owner to mom Jorge, can you help me put out? Fuck. Okay, so here's what I want to point out about this section right here. So take a look, there's timestamps there, right? So she says, can you help me put, she corrects herself, Sarah, right? And says out. Now that's at 108:31. Now you'll notice there's not a response there, because if there was a response, I appreciate that they're including if there was a response, but then they might be redacting what the response was. But you can see there is no response. This is not really surprising to me, but just to explain what's happening here is she's saying, can you help me out? He hasn't responded yet. He's busy helping his dad, apparently. There's no response. So she gives them all of 16 seconds and then says, fuck off. So, and then he says, how? No problem. How? No problem. I wonder why those got repeated. Oh, it's because it's showing that she read them in her phone. Okay. And then actually towards the bottom of the screen, we get some other
participants in the conversations.
Off. Jorge, mom to owner. How? No problem. From 267-216-5170 to owner. Damn, you can only talk when you're drunk and talking shit. Owner to the previously mentioned 267 number. Stop calling, texting my phone. He's not here anymore. And it's damn. 267 number to owner. NP, you didn't have to be a bitch about it. Owner to 267. Going on to page 13. Still May 30th, 2019. Yo, I like you all. He's a dick and the sheriff just left. Sorry I couldn't text back. I'll always respect you all. You know that. He's not here anymore. And yes, I am a bitch. So are you.
So here,
to owner. Look, I'm not.
A couple of Sarah's texts were actually redacted in there. And, again, it could be for relevancy. It could be that there was information about his kids, something like that.
Here to be taking shots at you. I never called you a bitch. I said you were acting like one. I'm not going to be here going back and forth on some childish shit. Have a good night. Owner to the 267 number. Friends forever. Thank you. Would love to chat sometime. Call his parents, I guess. Further down on page 13, now on to May 31st, 2019, from owner to mom, Jorge. Tell Jorge to call me. I want my things he took. I have his birth certificate and propane certificate. Until then, if he wants those back. And I have your quote unquote art box. Mom, Jorge to owner. Stop being petty. I did not take anything that wasn't mine, I swear. Owner to mom, Jorge. You're a liar. I never can believe you from all the other lies. You stop being petty and take shit like you always do. Another one bites the dust, Jorge. Hope you're miserable like you've made everyone else. Mom, Jorge to owner. I'm not lying. Owner to mom, Jorge. Lucas said he won't miss you either. When I get mine back, you'll get yours. Mom, Jorge to owner. I didn't take it. I'm coming over in a few to get my stuff. And I'm coming with Jean and Melissa. Going on to page 14. Owner to mom, Jorge. Go for it. Bring mine, W. Mom, Jorge to owner. I don't have anything of yours. That's why I'm coming with them so they can vary that. Owner to mom, Jorge. I don't care. They're not going to babysit you because you're an asshole and got kicked out after being taken off the lease. Mom, Jorge to owner. They seen what I had in my hands. Owner to mom, Jorge. Still don't care or believe you. I'm going to get Lucas anyway, so don't waste their time or mine. Mom, Jorge to owner. Exactly. Owner to mom, Jorge. You were a visitor and a terrible resident. Boyfriend too. Just go away unless you bring my stuff.
Interesting, right? Because she says he was a visitor, but like just a second ago, she said she was taking him off the lease. And I believe on the stand, she said he never was on the lease. So,
Mom, Jorge to owner. I don't have your shit, Sarah. I need my birth certificate. Owner to mom, Jorge. I don't give a shit either. I worked for that birth certificate, voter's registration, and your ID card. Just because your name is on them doesn't make them yours. Even paid for them. I needed you to be a man and take care of me, not beat me, call me names, and make me feel like I'm not a person.
Interesting, right? Because remember, she said in her interrogation that she said something like, I think he feels really bad because he can't provide for me and he really wants to provide for me, but I'm the one that makes him feel like it's okay. Of course, I mean, it's obvious that the opposite is true, right? And we're seeing that here in this text message that she's chastising him.
Not giving back until I have mine. Mom, Jorge to owner. Whatever, Sarah. Owner to mom, Jorge. Next step is restraining order. Know that. You can come over here 100 times. Doesn't mean I have to open the door. Good one, Jorge. Go away. Mom, Jorge to owner.
Well, I think whatever. Also notice how many times he says, whatever, Sarah, or whatever. This is so revealing. I guess it's really kind of in line with what we saw in the videos yesterday. He's not even reacting, right? Like, okay. One thing that had puzzled me from the get-go when it came to this whole thing with the fact that, he had been arrested for domestic violence and she had injuries and stuff like that. And it seemed like they were both the aggressor. One thing that I've mentioned before that I thought was problematic that I didn't quite understand is that, when you've got two strong personalities, like take Depp and Heard, right? Amber Heard, Johnny Depp, where there was intimate partner violence and they were both, verbally abusive at times, but, the evidence that bore out in court showed that Amber was the one that was physically abusive towards Johnny Depp, and he was not physically abusive towards her. And of course, it never rose to a criminal matter, as everyone knows. But, they were both kind of evenly matched. Although I would say that most of the time, she was really in control, and he was kind of reacting. So what I will say is that when it comes to, a lot of times when it comes to any type of abuse, whether it's, emotional abuse or physical, you have a power dynamic that's out of kilter, right? Shout out to Candace, good morning, where one person is really in control, right? And so when you think about anyone who's been unfortunately been in an abusive environment, whether it's a family member or a spouse or a partner, whatever the case, if they have that power and control, and you are the one, or someone is the one who is like, I hate using the word victim, but the survivor, like, you don't react, right? Like, I mean, because reacting is going to get you punished, right? You don't react. You do what they say, you take what they give you, and over time, that's where you become. Actually, we heard about it from the defense expert, learned helplessness. I found it really interesting when she gave that example of and described learned helplessness. And after what we saw yesterday with those videos, it's clear that was Jorge, and not Sarah. But in other words, if you've got a situation like in Depp v. Heard, where Johnny Depp actually would kind of react to her bullying, it just shows that, again, that's why it didn't rise to a criminal level, right? Where they were really kind of more just toxic to each other, but she wasn't so much in control that there were definitely times where he just placated her, right? There definitely were times where he just placated her, but there were other times where he would respond back. And the thing that I'd been thinking about throughout this whole case and this trial is, like, from what we know of Sarah's personality, not just in this trial, but also how she was while she was in custody with her attorneys, with the judge, her personality it's always, and I've said this before, like, before we saw those videos yesterday, was such that I was like, I cannot imagine someone else being the aggressor with her. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. You're not going to have two people that are both equally matched in power, that are both inflicting that much abuse, right? It just doesn't work like that. And so that's why it was puzzling for me when they showed the photos of her injuries, right? And we talked about that a little bit. It was like interesting because we just heard from that expert, and it was like, here's these injuries, and it's like, and some of them I figured could have been accidental. Some of them could have been like self-inflicted. Some of them we just didn't really know, and maybe it was him, but in my mind, I'm still thinking, but this doesn't make sense, because it's clear to me that the personality dynamic is that she is definitely the aggressor. The question mark that I had was his personality dynamic, because we hadn't seen yet them as a couple, apart from the footage of Publix. Okay. We hadn't seen yet him. We hadn't heard from him. He didn't have a voice yet. Okay. So it was hard to imagine how all this went down. And so it became very evident in these videos that we saw yesterday what was going on. And it makes sense to me. It's way worse than expected, but it did make sense to me that clearly she was the aggressor. And from what we heard in those videos, it really did seem like she was forcing him to hit her. And we'll talk about it more when we get to the videos, but I think there was a BDSM component, and that would also explain that black eye that we talked about. Looked kind of like it could have been makeup. And they were doing a lot of filming, it seems like, from what we gathered. There's a thing going on. There's a whole other thing going on with this filming and this forcing him to beat her, and them videoing each other. And it makes me wonder if that actually was makeup, because it was for a BDSM fetishy thing where that happens, right? But the difference is that this was not a consensual situation. Okay. In my opinion, this was her forcing him to hit her, I guess because, again, this was maybe a fetish that she had, and then filming it and then using it later to punish him. And this all ties into me with the names George and John, aka Juan and Jorge. I have to wonder if there's some sort of racial undertone. And I have a lot of thoughts on these videos, but basically what I wanted to say is that in terms of their relationship dynamic, it became really clear that she was the aggressor and he was the one who was being abused. And that in his words, he said, beat the shit out of me or I'll beat the shit out of you. It's like she forced him to beat her up. But if that wasn't happening, he was just taking the blame, taking the punches, cowering. He never, like, what we never saw was him fighting back. We never saw him even defending himself in self-defense, right? The irony. Good morning, Cece. And what we're seeing in these text messages is just like what we saw in those videos, where she's the one being the aggressor. She's going on and on and on. And he's like, whatever. He doesn't even react, right? And that's exactly what you would normally expect in a relationship like this when you have someone who is so much in control, right? Like, she's the bully and he's doing what you're supposed to do with bullies, which is not react and just whatever, Sarah, whatever. And she's the one that just keeps going, right? So these are especially make a lot of sense after the videos that were played yesterday, I think.
Owner to Mom Jorge, it's been a great day without you. Will be from now on. Mom Jorge to owner.
There's so much course control.
Owner to Mom Jorge, enjoy living with your parents at 41 with no girlfriend and lonely. It was the inevitable, just like it has been before. Owner to Jorge, Mom, did you take Lucas's sunglasses? Mom Jorge to owner, OMFG, no, I did not. Turning to June 2nd, page 15, 1:10:57 a.m. from owner to Mom Jorge. Jorge, question mark, call me. If Jorge is with you, can you have him call me, please? Text to Mo.
Oh.
(1:18, 16 seconds on June 2nd. Owner to Mom Jorge, I beat you to the punch. Want to do the dartboard with me? Come. Owner to Mo, I know you won't answer, Mo. Tell him to come finish the dartboard with me, please. Owner to Mo, I miss him. Owner to Mom Jorge, ask Jorge to call me, please, when he gets a minute. June 2nd.
One thing that's interesting is that you can see in the participants, she's sending these text messages and she's including her ex-husband's email. And it also says owner, but we know Sarah Boone is the owner. This makes me think that the only way this could possibly be true is it's like she's CCing herself. It's like she's sending text messages and copying them to herself via email, but you might be like, well, it says Brian Boone's email, but it also says owner. That makes me think that she took control of Brian Boone's email account, and that wouldn't be surprising. And I have thoughts on that as well, because another question that I've had this whole time is like looking at the difference between Brian Boone and Jorge, right? What happened? And after 13 years of marriage, right? And he was on that stand so quickly, and then the defense said they were going to call him in their case, and then state was like, we're going to call him, but no one else called him, okay? And it's a shame, in my opinion, in terms of getting more information, because I'm wondering if this coercive control was something that she was doing with Brian. And, one thing that you can now see that they have in common is that Brian Boone was very so submissive to her. I mean, he had that personality, right? He's paying all of her bills. He's doing whatever she wants, and he's placating her. And now we know that really it was the same thing with Jorge. It's just that it looks like she maybe stepped it up a notch by forcing him to physically abuse her. It's like it took it to a new level. But with all that context, and obviously that's her thing. Like, she's not going to be in a relationship with somebody where she's not abusing them. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen for her. And so it wouldn't surprise me if she had control of his email address. And that's what it looks like, because it says owner, and she's like CCing this to herself, but under his email.
7:43:40 a.m. Can you have Jorge call me, please, when he gets a chance, if he's with you? 7:45 a.m. Owner to Mo. Going on to page 16, June 2nd, 2019, 10:50 a.m., 55 seconds. Owner to Mo. Hello. Can you please have Jorge call me? Willing to give back. Don't know if he's there or at parents. Really want to see him. Owner to Mom Jorge at 10:52, 16 a.m. Not pursuing after 12 o'clock. Ever again. 12:19 p.m., 23 seconds. Owner to Mom Jorge.
This is the same day. This is the same day. Hold on. Incredible. I don't know what not pursuing after 12 o'clock, but this is all the same day. And now, please call, come over. I'll come get you. Please call, come over. I need a super hug. Hugs, please, need you. This is her sucking him back in.
Please call, come over.
Right.
I'll come get you. Come over, please. I need a super hug. Hugs, please, need you.
So the other thing I had speculated with this whole thing with the family, right? Like I had speculated on the last live stream where we broke down the interrogation and all that. And I speculated about her whole thing about saying that she's afraid of his family. Okay. They're going to kill me. I'm so afraid. I'd speculated that this was her saying that because she was hoping that they would think, oh, she's in danger, so we can't tell. She was saying that if they find out what happened to him, they're going to kill me. Okay. And this was me speculating that, thinking that she's hoping they're going to be like, oh, she's in danger, so we're not going to tell them. And my thought was that the reason for this, from Sarah's standpoint, is because she knew that if they talked to his family, they would give all the tea, right? Because what we can tell is that she would kick him out, right? And he would go and stay with his family. And so you know what's happening is they're picking up the pieces after he's clearly been abused. They're picking up the pieces. And then we know that at some point, right, she gives him that ultimatum and never speak to your family again, right, type thing. And so at this point, it looks like that hasn't happened yet. He's still going back there. And so my thought was that she was like hoping that they don't talk to his family, which is crazy because like they have to say that the son died, right? But that they don't talk to him because they're gonna have all kinds of damning information about her. That was my thought. And we're seeing them being a part of these text message conversations, his family members, and we're also seeing all this conversation about her trying to get in touch with him via his family, and he's back staying with them, and she wants him to come back with her. So yeah, so this really supports what I was thinking there. Yes, the owner is Sarah Boone. Where it says owner, that is Sarah Boone. Yes, thank you, Cece.
23 p.m. Owner to Anna. He doesn't live here anymore. Call parents or Mo in response to an incoming phone call that was made at 6:10 p.m. 54 seconds from Anna to owner. Entries 9803, 9804 in the PDF timeline, June 2nd, 2019.
Wow.
Image 0092.heic. Capture time 6:33:01 p.m. Image 0093 HEIC captured 6:33:26 p.m.
Interesting.
Publishing from attachments.
Oh boy, we're getting the pictures. And then, so did you see what underneath it says? Hold on. We're going to see these pictures.
Image _0092.
Hold on, I'm going to lose it. So this is wild. So check it out though. He's going to pull up these pictures. So it says, look what you made me do. So she's sending pictures. Look what you made me do. And other pictures. Remember, well, okay, let's see what these pictures are.
Captured 6:33. Image _0092. Metadata showing 6/2/2019, 6:33 p.m.
It seems like she may have done some of these injuries. Now that we know there's a fetish thing here, she may have done some of these to herself, and others she forced him to do to her. And either way, she's like blaming the injuries on him. Oh, this is birth certificate. Wow. What did she do?
An image or IMG underscore 0093, metadata, date taken 6/2/2019, 6:33 p.m.
Did she rip it up or tear it up or something? Let's see. Yep, there it is. Look what you made me do. I mean,
6:34 p.m.,
this
51
is
seconds,
textbook,
June
right?
2nd, 2019.
This is textbook.
Outgoing from owner to mom Jorge. All up to you now, big boy. And for the record, those images were sent to mom Jorge at 6:34 p.m., 33 seconds. Look what you made me do. Or maybe your mom will for you. Response from mom Jorge to owner. Wow, that's really childish. Owner to mom Jorge, but effective. Mom Jorge to owner. Yeah, I see what you are doing. Did Lucas leave? Owner to mom Jorge. I'm watching shadows. Be gone for good. Minus birth certificate. Mom Jorge to owner. Okay, cool. Enjoy. Owner to mom Jorge. Am. Nice. You're not. And nice was from mom Jorge to owner. Going on to page 17. This is still June 2nd, 2019. Mom Jorge to owner. Yes, I am. You are not, though. Owner to mom Jorge. To who? Your mom? Brothers? Not me. Mom Jorge to owner. To everyone. Owner to mom Jorge, but me. Mom Jorge to owner. I love you. Owner to mom Jorge. I'm going out at 8. Get dressed. I've given you since noon. Peace out, Boy Scout. Mom Jorge to owner.
You know, that is something she was a peace out Boy Scout, just like that's my name, don't wear it out.
I'm coming over with a handle. I was helping Pop all day cut grass. Owner to mom Jorge. Yay you. Getting in the shower, then out. Bye-bye. Mom Jorge to owner.
Excuse me, can we approach the bench?
Yes.
All right, and we'll zoom past this approach. I don't know why they're approaching.
Mom Jorge to owner.
Oh, so
Hello?
that's overruled.
Text from Anna to owner. You're rude as hell, but okay. Owner to Anna. Your dad is a POS, but okay. At least you know and will stop calling. Owner to Anna. Futile. Anna to owner. CTFU, as you are a piece of shit, but that's God's business, not mine. Have a good day, Coke whore. Since you like to switch it up, I'll do the same. Don't text me back either, fake ass.
And there's, you could see it went by quickly there, but there's text messages. You could see Jorge typing in Spanish to his family. So
Page 20 of 108, June 9th, 2019, from owner to Philip. He's off the lease. The process has begun. Page 22, June 11th, 2019. Metadata only shows to mom Jorge. You tell your son he's not welcome here, taken off the lease and bound, worthless. Don't show his ugly fucked up face around
taken off the lease and bound.
here again. Police will be called. Ask him if it was worth it and ride my bike he has.
And there's, I've been speculating. I say speculating. I think it's really more of like an informed opinion from what we've seen about the racist undertones that Sarah has. And there's evidence of it right there. Stay Hispanic. That's what you all are. He hasn't read it yet, but I saw it and I just wanted to point out, stay Hispanic. That's what you all are. And this again explains the whole thing of calling Juan, John, and Jorge George.
That's what you all are. And he can watch all the porn he wants from the phone mom gave him. Page 26, June 14th, 2019, 11:38:56 p.m. To Mom Jorge. Wow, congrats. Blackouts and boring. We wanted to see him. Hot house, 7 people. Mission to work on my bike. Repeat. Candy Crush. Fuck himself. Shit job. Repeat.
Wait. Hold on. Wow, congrats. Blackouts and whoring. We wanted to see him. Hot house, 7 people. What? Okay, I'm going to also add something. We learned yesterday from watching those videos, right, that one of the times when Sarah's calling law enforcement, she says, yeah, I have a pineapple on my door. So when we did on one of the live streams, one of the recaps, we actually did a field trip to find Sarah's apartment. And I thought actually that this was on Google Maps, that it was more recent. And I noticed that there was a pineapple on the door. We talked about it because we were like, it covered up the number of the apartment, right? And I thought that whoever had moved in after her had maybe put something there just to cover up the apartment number so that people didn't come gawking or whatever, right? Well, as it turns out, I was shocked to learn yesterday because she says to them when they're like trying to find her apartment, she's like, yeah, there's a pineapple on the door. And I was like, oh my God. So that Google Maps, when you find her address, it's from when she still lived there. And there's a pineapple on the door. So, but apparently that I actually looked it up and it can be a symbol for something about like swingers or whatever, which, I mean, there was so far in this trial, there had never been any indication that that was going on. I mean, you know, people can like pineapples, right? And also I will say pineapple is the welcome symbol in Hawaii. And I guess that could be part of why it became a symbol for swingers. But my point is like, it didn't necessarily, I didn't read too much into it. I just looked it up. But this here, hot house, 7 people, is a little bit interesting, right? And that does make it seem like, was she having an orgy? I mean, I will say if that was happening, I feel like the neighbors would have heard because as we know, those walls are paper thin. Shout out to Modest Mouse. But anyway, we know now there's definitely some kinks involved. But this so far is the first indication that could maybe point to also some swinging happening.
Shit job.
Or polyamory or whatever.
Same page, June 15th, 2019, 7:37 p.m., 48 seconds. To Melissa, just an FYI, if my place gets effed up, I'm letting you know.
Oh.
He's in jail. Thanks for the prompts. I'm at my ex's house. Please don't let this reflect on me as a tenant. You said to call cops. I did. He's gone. We're both proud now. I consider you my friend.
Okay. So this is the apartment or townhouse owner. So this is fine. There was another live stream, or I agree that the interesting mention of bound. Yes. We're going to get to some of my thoughts on those videos when we get to the videos, but I have a lot of thoughts. So there was a live stream where I was just doing the thing where I'm being squirrely and I'm like, okay, what's the difference between an apartment, a townhouse, and a condo, right? Not thinking it was going to ever matter. I'll tell you what, I can tell you why it matters now. Didn't know it would matter at the time, but here's what I learned. In a town, if you're at a townhouse, okay, a townhouse means that each unit is individually owned. So we know that where she lived, there was, what was it called? Tealwood Park. There was a property manager, and that is normal, right? There's a property manager, and that's, we heard from him in trial. But because these townhouses are individually owned, some people can own them and live there, and other people own them and rent them, right? So this is the owner of the townhouse, Melissa. This is her landlord. I think it's interesting too. I consider you my friend, but this is who she's talking to. Melissa is the owner of that townhouse.
Melissa, why was he in your apartment?
I don't know if he's going to read this text, but from Janice, we don't know who Janice is. I wonder if it's, so whoever this is, I would imagine is doing voice to text because they put George, Georg. This must be somebody that Sarah knows because, again, everybody that Sarah knows calls him George, and apparently that's not his actual name. Yeah, this has got to be a Sarah's friend because she's saying also the other condition is he needs to stay away from her for a while. Someone is speaking up on Sarah's behalf to, I guess, his family. Oh, and this Janice person accidentally sent it to Sarah. And this is Sarah. I think you meant to send to Jorge's dad. Yes, thank you. Now here's what her friend is saying. I just think the two of you two should take a break from each other. No one is put on this earth to be hit on. I do not condone that or well tolerated. I'm sorry he did that to you. The only reason I'm loaning the money is because I need him to work. Otherwise, you could stay there. He needs to be punished for what he did. You should ignore him for a couple weeks and give him the cold shoulder. This is the worst thing you can do to a person, and he will really punish you. You know he'll come back. He loves you, LOL. What? That's very bizarre. He needs to be punished for what he did. You should ignore him for a couple weeks. So that's saying like ignoring him is the punishment, right? So we're talking, this is emotional abuse. And give him the cold shoulder. That is the worst thing you can do to a person. Well, she's done much worse, I will say. And that will really punish him. I don't think this friend knows what she does to him. I don't think anyone knew what she was doing to him. He'll come back. He loves you, LOL. In the context of the videos we saw yesterday, this is really depressing because as she was abusing him, and it was traumatic for me to watch those actually, and his reaction, and the last one especially. Anyway. And it is interesting because he does say he loves her. There's not a single text message from her to him or any interaction on any of those videos where she says she loves him, ever. There's not a single one. There's not a single one. But he says he loves her. It's... Ooh, black spray paint. Hold on. Hold on. Black spray paint. Now you have two. Was that what the black eye was, quote unquote, y'all? Black spray paint? Did she do one eye and then do the other eye? And they redacted some of this. Yeah, look. He who hits goes to jail. Black spray paint. Now you have two. Oh boy. He's probably not allowed to read those. Wow. What is all that?
Page 38, notes. Creation time,
Oh
June
boy.
26, 2019, 5:56:57 a.m. 6:14, X videos, 10:03 a.m. Sarah Banks, 5:03 Bank, 6:13. Metro activation 6:12.
Oh.
Down.
So remember when there was cross of Sarah, there was a lot of funny business about what's the deal with the phone, the cheating, the pornography or whatever. And he specifically asked her, do you recognize these names? And he said these names, like, what was it, like Christine and some other people. And we were all just like, what is the relevance of this? There's a lot of things that maybe we didn't know why he was saying them. And now it all makes sense after seeing these videos. And then now also with these text messages. So the jury's taking notes, right? So some of those questions maybe didn't make sense at the time, but they're going to make sense now. Because he's still allowed to ask her those questions, right? Even if he can't come in and impeach her with it. He's allowed to ask her those questions, and then she answers however she answers. And now he's bringing in all this other information, like with the videos yesterday, where now things make sense as to And the other thing I will note, I think that when the detectives interrogated her, remember how they had found the videos on her phone of the suitcase? I think they had watched the other videos, the ones we saw yesterday that were on her phone, because now it all makes sense. Like, for example, when they were doing the interrogation and they're asking her about the pillows on the floor, and she was really weird about the pillows. She was not answering the question. She started talking about her routine making the bed. She didn't answer the question. And there's other examples as well, but that's just one I can think of off the top of my head where it was like, I guess, they could just see pillows on the floor and ask about it. But after the videos we saw yesterday, it's clear they had seen those too. So going into that interrogation, they had not just seen the suitcase videos. They saw the videos we saw yesterday. I'm positive of it. They were on her phone and she handed it over. So, and the whole suitcase thing makes a lot more sense now, actually, given the context of those other videos. And we'll talk about that when we do that recap. So many things make so many of these big giant gaps in my mind and like big question marks of like trying to understand this whole thing. So much of it makes sense now to me, but not in a good way. It's sadder than I thought it would be.
X videos 6:2, 6:13 p.m. X videos 6:1. X videos 5:31, 9:56 a. Who's Christine? Friend FB. Going to meet up? Question. Calling her beautiful? Question. Said she thought you were avoiding her when down here. Said no, I was not beautiful. FB-nonchalant Quay. Thanks for adding me. You are exquisite. Facebook messaging Camille 6:13, 9:42. Facebook or FB Pamela Erickson sending pictures of yourself, telling her good morning 7:14, 12:13 a.m. FB-Crystal going to woo her, sweep her off her feet, going to change her mind. Luck is my middle name. Sent her pics, kiss emojis. Called her beautiful after returning to the convo. Said you had to pick up your brother. Sent pics of beer. Sent her struts, could have been me. Sent her songs, but not me. Messaged bunny kiss emojis, convo. Sent puppy kiss emoji. Would love to take her out and see a movie. Told her about what we do in the shadows. Would love to watch Creed 2 with her. Want to snuggle with her and eat popcorn. Sent heart-hugging animal emoji. Want to play a board game with her. Asked to FaceTime call her. Called her amazing. Messaging at 7:30 a, 6:14, 6:15, 2 days. FB-Crystal
All right.
liking all
So
her
this
posts.
part, when it's in all caps, you can pretty much guarantee that it's probably Sarah talking to somebody. So this looks like, from what I can glean from this, this is what the jury's going to have to do. He can't explain this, right? The jury's going to have to look at this and figure out what it means using their common sense and human experience. So my guess here is that Facebook. So these are notes in her phone, right? She's making notes of the things she's done. So Facebook, which is just like self-snitching to the max, right? Crystal liking all of her posts. So she liked all of Crystal's posts, and then it looks like she sent this or posted this or replied this to all of Crystal's posts. Again, Crystal might be someone that Jorge was talking to. And so this would be what she says in all caps to Crystal on Facebook.
Quote, losing someone who doesn't respect or appreciate you is actually a gain, not a loss. Can't compare me to the next girl because there is no competition. I'm one of a kind and that's real.
She's talking about porn quite a bit, though.
Continuing on to page 39.
Hold on.
Same.
He didn't read that entire text. You can't compare me to the next girl because there is no competition. I'm one of a kind and that's real. Came downstairs to make him breakfast and he's jacking off watching porn. Said he didn't have enough time to turn it off. And he had just started watching it. Admitted later he had been watching the whole movie. Continuously lies to me he's not watching porn anymore and will not when he gets caught. Even after I explained to him how it hurts me. Hold on. How it hurts me and him looking it up on Dr. Phil, saying the same thing about it. It's like cheating. This explains this whole bit about the porn being cheat. Okay. Still looks at porn, even after swearing on his children and parents. Stabbed me in the back of leg, having emergency surgery, hospitalization, extreme pain, packing, unpacking, still to date, gel tissue being removed, pile of bills. So there she's referencing that stab in the back of the leg. this is really interesting stuff psychologically, right? We need Fender or we need Dr. Bricado. We need help. This is a lot, like, this is a very unique, her psychology she's always been a unique one, right? A rare bird, as they say. But it's a lot. It's just not even like, it's just, she's on another level. Like, from what we saw yesterday and what we're seeing here, she's got a very unique psychology. And I'm just so glad that we will have seen the videos and read these text messages before we get to the defense experts, because I'm so curious to learn, because, I watched it at the time, but, I was doing other things, and this is just so much more context. I'm just really curious what all they were provided. Were they provided all of this? Were they provided those videos from her phone? Were they provided that body cam in terms of making their assessments on her psychology? I can't imagine they were. I can't imagine they were, because I think the result would have been different.
Continuing on to page 39, same note. I found everything on your phone, all your messenger texts, telling Christine you want to meet up with her when she's here, calling her beautiful, thanking nonchalant Quay for adding you and calling her exquisite, telling Pamela Erickson good morning and sending pictures at 12:38 a.m., messaging Camille, then the whole 2-day convo with Crystal. How dare you? And send pictures.
And remember,
my wedding ring.
I will say, since he's not reading all of them, and I'm reading some of the ones he's not, the jury's good. This is going to go back with the jury, so they can do what I'm doing and read other things that he's not reading.
You're a cheating, lying scumbag. I will never trust you. Why don't you put your mugshot up, or I will, since I have your phone, and log in and tell everyone why you were in jail for the 3rd time. Let them know you beat your wife and she put you there because she couldn't take it anymore. I want nothing to do with you ever again. I've become a different person since you've been gone, with less stress, anxiety, and worry. I feel safe, comfortable, happier with you not here or seeing you at all. I can say through I do have heartbreak after going through your phone. Thank you for always proving me right. I knew when you told me your mom gave you one that you'd be back to your slimy ways. You will never change. I hope it was all worth it, all of it, including losing my debit card for the 3rd time to buy beer and cigarettes, which put you back where you belong. I know for a fact you were not worth any of it. I just can't believe after everything I've done for you, including all I did to get you out of jail, and you do this to me. This is cheating.
Still, there is nothing in here that makes it seem like she even likes him. And actually, she says that in that video. She's like, I don't love you. She's like, it's not only that, I don't love you. I don't even like you. And then he's like, I love you. And it's just fucking horrifying. But that's what we're seeing here. I mean, there is literally, it's just manipulation after, if you didn't know anything about these two people and you read these, you would not think that this person loved or liked the person that they're talking to, or that they even had a relationship. Like, it's just crazy.
Goes on to page 41 and ends with never truly yours. Page 42, June 26th, 2019, 8:06 p.m., 16 seconds. Outgoing from owner to Mo. Just wanted to let you know to tell Jorge I found all his messages, kissy face heart emojis with Crystal and other bitches on FB, along with all his porn after he swore to me he wasn't doing any of that anymore. I'm not doing anything more for him, and he will try and keep him in jail as long as I can. Cheating snake weasel.
I have to say credit where credit is due. I appreciate that she said snake weasel. That's interesting. Because, we've got the shark weasel and we've got the shrimp weasel, but snake weasel is a good one. I have to say that is the only compliment I can possibly ever give her.
Ask him all about it, or have your parents the next time they talk to him. I'm not anymore. So hurtful after all I've done for him. He can rot in there for all I care. Going on to page 43, to Mo from owner. And I will be there for the hearing next week and his arraignment on both charges. Peace out, fucks, aka Torres. Same page 43, from owner to Mo, 6/26/2019, 9:59:14 p.m. begins, "Hi, I was thinking if you could get out, I'd really love it if you'd take me to a movie, or we could snuggle like we do and watch Creed 2, get some popcorn and pretzels, maybe talk about what kind of other movies we like or find a fun board game to play together. I know your favorite is Avalon. What do you think? I was also thinking the other day about how much I miss you sending me pictures of yourself
What?
throughout the day, sending me songs you wanted to hear or thought I'd like. But what I really miss are the kissy love emojis you would send just because I really miss those, especially the ones with hearts.
Hold on. Dude, I wish they okay. This is her to Mo? His brother? What? Was she cheating on him with his brother? What are happening? What is happening? You do Crystal though. Even asked her to FaceTime. Huh? I'm really confused. You know, I'm having to wonder if crystal could be a reference to crystal meth, which totally changes things. I don't know. Or is this like code? Y'all. That is possible. That's possible. But what is interesting is we've not heard Sarah say anything like this to Jorge yet, anywhere. Like, I miss you. Like, this sounds like being like this is what you should expect, but we have never heard her talk to him like that. This is really, I'm just looking at this. So what would you do if you found me having this combo with Ben or John or any? Okay, so this, okay. I'm not clear on who she's sending this to yet. However, this first part, that's copied and pasted from what he sent to someone on Facebook. Because this actually looked familiar. I was like, wait, we've seen this before. This is, it'd be helpful if she used grammar like quotes. This is copied and pasted from something he sent to somebody else. He being Jorge, okay? That's why it makes sense, because it's like, oh, that sounds like someone being sweet. Oh, that's because it's not her, it's Jorge. So he's saying that. So what the thing, and then I think this other part, this paragraph here, you guys can't see my mouse, where it says, I was also thinking the other day, all of that, I still think that was all from that other conversation that we already saw she copied and pasted. What she didn't do is even make a separate paragraph or any indication when she switches over from what she copied and pasted to what she's saying. That's why this is confusing. This is my thought, where it says, what would you do if you found me having this combo with Ben or John or anyone other than you? I'd be beaten to bloody pulp. That's where I think it switches over. And I know you guys can't see my mouse. It's like in the long paragraph, it's like in the middle-ish, halfway down, where it says, what would you do? That's where I think it switches to her responding. She's like copied and pasted what he said, and now she's saying, she's like, look what I found on your phone or whatever. I think that's what's happening here. But so Candace, you might be right that Jorge had Mo's phone here.
Thinking the other day about how much I miss you sending me pictures of yourself throughout the day, sending me songs you wanted to hear or thought I'd like. But what I really miss are the kissy love emojis you would send just because I really miss those.
The jury's going to have to figure all this out as well.
Always make me smile. I knew you were thinking about me. You do Crystal though. Even asked her to FaceTime. What would you do if you found me having this convo with Ben or John or anyone other than you? I'd be beaten to a bloody pulp. And don't do any of these things anymore, but yet you wear your wedding ring and mine around your neck and tell me how much you love me. But you're telling this woman who looks like teeth.
It does seem like Crystal is a person with a Facebook. I don't know, because there's also the thing about the teeth, right? And we know, I don't know much about drugs compared to probably a lot of people, but I do know, like, one things they say about meth, right, is you lose your teeth. But I had actually had a thought on the last live stream that potentially, because when law enforcement shows up, right, on the day of the on February 24th. She tells him over and over, and he has no medical issues, no medical issues, no medical issues, blah, blah, right? But then she changes her tune as she goes along, and then she starts talking about the teeth. She talks about the teeth quite a bit. He's been losing his teeth. I think he's stressed out. He's losing his teeth, right? And so I had a thought that maybe was that because you remember how he was bleeding from the mouth? Did she hit him in the face with the baseball bat and also knock out some teeth? And is that her trying to explain how he lost teeth? Very possible, I think. And so there's that. So the teeth thing could be, I don't know if there's meth involved. They did ask her if he was using drugs, and she said he used to, but not since he met me. Take from that what you will. And I also love how she was like, I've been trying to get him to go to the doctor, but then in those videos, I feel like there's actually times where he's like saying he wants to go to the doctor and she's not allowing him. The videos that we saw yesterday. So everything she says is basically opposite of what the reality is. But so anyway, the teeth thing remains to be seen as to, like, we don't even know if he was losing his teeth, right? But it would seem like if she's saying that, she's trying to explain a reason for it. Was it drugs? Was it she knocked him out with a bat? I don't know. So this is all very confusing, but here it does look like there is a Facebook for a person named Crystal. Wow.
PT,
it's a lot.
Want to snuggle with, take out the movie, play board games.
Yes.
Questions. Sending music, cutesy, kissy, love emojis to like you used to me. Telling her you want to woo her, sweep her off her feet. How do you think that makes me feel? Why don't you say that to me? Going on through the rest of page 43, page 44.
Cheating. So remember, every time she's saying this, it really could just be because of the porn, or it could be something about talking to someone on Facebook. It definitely doesn't look like there was any actual physical cheating, just from what we know.
Including on page 44, dirty cheat, enjoy your porn and dirty
on his
secretly so your parents don't see you and your ugly new girlfriends. I can't wait to finally be with a real man, Ben, who will and has taken care of me. Can't wait to see what he's like in bed. I already know he kisses. Hope it was all worth it. I'm free. As you told Crystal in your messenger text, you're single with a little cutesy dancing dinosaur. Wow, now you really are. You're despicable. Next text is XOXO from Mo to owner. Page 50, 6/28, 2019, 10:55:47 p.m. from
Still cutting? Hold on. What is happening? He scrolls pretty quickly. You alive, still cutting. Okay.
Page 50, 6/28, 2019, 10:55:47 p.m. from owner to Mo.
Also, Brian Boone is always copied on all the things that she sends. It's definitely clear to me that she is CCing herself and using his email, like she's usurped his email address.
I can do so much more damage than all of you put together. Know that. Going on to page 51. Try me.
I wonder what her maiden name was. Did we ever learn that? I don't think we ever learned what her birth name was. And that's so sad for him, for Brian, that she still keeps the last name Boone, right? I guess I kind of always thought that once you're divorced, you can't keep that same last name, right? It's interesting. Does anyone know anything about that? And here we are all these years later. It's crazy that she's allowed to keep it or able to keep it, or I wonder, but I was going to say, it's not surprising that she wants to keep it, right? Because in a way, that's like her still having some modicum of control over him. Like she's getting the last word, right? She's going to keep his last name. I just didn't think that was even something that you could do. Or maybe you can, but just no one would usually in a divorce situation. It's pretty wild. Yeah, Candace says you can keep it. I guess most people just don't. Why would you, right? Like it wouldn't. Makes sense usually. Unless there's some reason like you've created a business using that name or something where people know that last name. That's different. I don't mean in that situation. I mean a situation where it's just a name, but it's not, Oh, okay. That makes sense, Candace. Candace says my friend did so she and her kids would have the same name. That makes sense. Yeah.
Page 72, July 20th, 2019, 11:34 p.m. From Janice to owner.
Look at this. Did he do this? I'm sure he didn't do this on accident. Check it out. So the prosecutor highlighted the word black here, probably to draw the jury's attention to it. Look at what it says here. So it says, what happened last night, he had a black eye. He had a black eye, guys. I told him to put makeup on it. Did you two get into it again? He had a black eye.
No metadata, but from Janice. Sorry.
No, the other thing too is remember, like, we know she's abusing him, right? It's like he never, I don't think from all that we learned, I don't think he ever called the police on her. The only times that I from what has bore out in this trial, again, we'll be going over all of it again, but on the recaps, but like, I feel like anytime that she was actually charged with something was when she called the cops on him and then they looked and he was injured, right? And then it was like, well, you're both charged. But I don't think he ever, and this goes back to a lot of what we've talked about, where it's hard for men, right? Men being abused. This needs to change. This needs to change. And this is so sad. Because it's clear that he just tolerated it and didn't, man. I mean, here's the thing. Had he sought help from law enforcement and had they known earlier what was going on, he would still be alive today, I would think. I mean, because I think she would be in custody. Now, the problem with this situation, just thinking about it, is like, well, if she gets a small, like, some number of months, then she gets out, right? Let's just say we fast forward in the future, right? She gets out and then like we see, right? And then he bails her out, like, or whatever, or she comes and finds him and then you know what I mean? It's like if you've got two people and one of them's going to kill the other at some point, more than likely, or at the very least, we're talking like great bodily harm. Like, you can't, they're adults. They can choose to make bad decisions, right? But then the only thing you can do to stop it is legal intervention, right? So like restraining orders, protective orders, things like that, right? Which we know have happened. Well, we know Sarah did that as a way to manipulate Jorge. He never got one against her. That's something that could have happened, right? But again, it's just, this is the whole thing where it's like men don't feel like they can say it, I mean, thinking about like, okay, there's been a lot more awareness, thank God, on domestic violence and, believing people. And this is where it sucks, right? Because you look at people like Amber Heard, you look at people like Sarah Boone and others, Ezra, right? Where they claim that they're the victim of abuse when they're not, or that's just not the full story or whatever. Those three people are all very different from each other, but there's also a lot in common. But anyway, where it's really insulting to people who were real victims or survivors. But when you think about the whole thing is like, well, even for women, right? It's hard sometimes to be believed. And so if you're thinking about it from a guy's standpoint, I can see how it's like, well, even women are always believed. Like it's getting better, but even women aren't always believed. Women like this, Sarah Boone, don't help the situation at all, right? But if women are still having trouble getting believed, it's like if you're a guy, it's just, I understand where guys, okay, let me just articulate this better. I totally understand where a guy is coming from if a guy is a victim of abuse and feels like they can't say anything. Because I also understand where a woman is coming from when they are a victim of abuse and feel like they can't say anything. So many of us have been there, or we know people who've been there. I get it, but I can also see how if you're a guy, you probably feel even more so like you can't say anything because who's going to believe you, but none of that should be the case in a perfect, so maybe someday, right? I don't know. I hate that that's the case, but I totally understand how it is the case, but I hate that it's the case. CC Mrs. Ezra. Words that I never thought I would see somebody say, but I know you mean the trial. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. That to me means that you must have really enjoyed the trial. So that's if you've not been following it, we've been doing Casey Anthony, and it is really, 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 really interesting. There's maybe not quite as much to laugh about. But every now and again, there's things, but what I will say is that it's not, I don't think anyone who is watching it, Candace, I know has been watching it some, anyone who's watching it, it's really not, I understand how people who haven't seen the trial and go off of what, everyone knows ahead of time, same thing I knew ahead of time, you probably would be expecting a really heavy trial in terms of like, how could a mom do this? And why is it, just things that, but to me, it's not that way at all. It really feels a lot of the times a lot more like Karen Reed to me and in many ways. Or even like Richard Allen. Shame we can't watch that. The guy, when we covering the guy who went into that house. Oh, Brian Koberger. Right. I understand. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry for that, Cece. I wonder, is it like, yeah, I can see that. I know things are different for everybody, and that case is all, the number of people, right? I could see that being a distinction, for people who follow murder trials, right? We get that used to certain things, but then there's always some things that might cross a line where it's a bit hard, too scary. Yeah, I get you. Yeah. So that's where you might be fine with the Casey Anthony trial for me has really been more about learning how important, well, I already, how important it is to watch a full trial, right? Because, and also just how wrong the media can be and the general consensus. But what's really been super interesting is like the family dynamics of that family. We're going to be talking about that a lot more on the next episode when we recap with the video jail calls, but it's really not at all. A lot like Karen Reed, right? Remember like in Karen Reed where it's like, this doesn't feel like this is a murder trial. We're not really hearing much at all about the victim. We're not really hearing about what happened. We're hearing about all this extraneous stuff. We're hearing from the friends and the baseball games and going to the bar and all this other stuff, right? And it's like, all these witnesses one after another that that's kind of what the Casey Anthony trial is like, where we're just now kind of getting into some of the forensic evidence, but a lot of the meat and potatoes of what happened, I think really has to do with there's more to the story with like the people, just like with Karen Reed, but that it's clear that there's, in my opinion, that, what else is like Karen Reed? I'll tell you. How like watching Karen Reed trial, you felt like a lot of the times, right, when like the Higgins, like Brian Higgins or Brian Albert, like the McCabe's, the McAlberts, like when they were on the stand, I think that I felt, and a lot of people felt like they were acting like they were on trial, and it seemed like they should be on trial, right? Like they got up on the stand and it was just like, oh my God, right? And it's like, why are they not on trial? Why are they not being charged? Blah, blah. And meanwhile, it's like, there's nothing that shows that Karen did anything. That for me is how it feels with this Casey Anthony trial. When you hear from George, especially, but even Cindy and Lee, it's like, and it's so funny because it's very similar where they testify more than one time and the whole thing is like about them really. And there's just George's face is just all over the whole thing. And it's like, you're like, or at least for me, I'm like, why is it not his trial? I'm just confused. So that's kind of a way to compare it. I understand, Candace. I understand that. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's get back to these messages here.
Wait, I just read.
Yeah, I just wanted to point that out, that in this message here, Jorge has a black eye.
Text. He
And I
seemed
was ashamed that he couldn't speak up and felt like he couldn't speak up about it.
fine when I saw him at your apartment this morning. He answered the door right away, but was quite bummed out that he overslept. But I was okay and told him, no problem, just get ready and come to work in about half an hour. Then I texted your phone and asked if he would rather work the afternoon shift and get some sleep, but he never answered, so I have no idea where he is or what he's doing. What happened last night, he had a black eye. He said it was new because I asked him and I told him to put makeup on it. He said he had that taken care of. Did you two get in it again? He acted like when I told him he had a black guy, at first he didn't know what I was talking about. I guess he kind of blacked out. You can call me back if you want. 11:30 p.m., 38 seconds. From owner to mom, Jorge. Janice just called me looking for Jorge and she's pissed. Congrats.
Janice. Is Janice's ex-wife? I feel like now the name kind of rings a bell a little bit. Janice. Yeah, one thing that I will say too that, was beneficial, at least it wasn't planned, but in terms of the Ezra trial, because we never knew when this was going to happen. But, we did learn a lot just from the legal side of it about the, self-defense, right? And the laws. And of course they vary by state, but a lot of it's the same. And so it is interesting. And then again, just thinking about another overlap in a way between like the Casey Anthony trial and like Karen Reed is like, was this an accident? Was it somebody else? Those questions are still they're relevant to both of those, it's like, if it was this person, maybe it was an accident, or more than likely it was an accident, or even more so, were they not even involved and was it somebody else entirely? You have the wrong person, So, but again, the Ezra has this commonality with this one, with the self-defense, affirmative defense.
Page 82, 8/21, August 21st, 2019. From Jorge to owner. I love you, my friend, my love, my queen, my everything.
So the subtitle there said clean. I'm sure he said queen. But again, this is... I don't know why he loved her. I mean, she's like the worst, dude.
Now that concludes everything I'm going to publish to the jury.
All right, there you go.
Yes.
They're going to approach. I think the next thing that's happening is the charging conference. Let's just see what happens. If anything else. What, if anything? How long will this sidebar be? Oh, there's Juan. There was her siblings. Oh, man. Wow. He looks just like his brother. Her hair looks less bad if it's tousled like that. I don't know if she did that on purpose, but it looks less bad. Like maybe some layers would help as well. Toss long, quite long.
It is not the entirety of State's Exhibit 21.
Oh.
The entirety of State's Exhibit 1 will go back to you into the deliberation room with a laptop for you to review all the exhibits and text messages, the total conversations over and above what was highlighted by the state. With that, State, do you have any other witnesses, evidence, or testimony to provide?
Your Honor, at this time, the state rests its rebuttal case.
Okay. Anything further from the defense? You want to approach?
Oh, no, not now. What? Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh, for fuck's sake. More issues? How? Oh, boy. He sat outside the presence of the jury, so I'm wondering if they're going to be on the record here. Probably.
We're going to go ahead and excuse you for a couple minutes. I got some things I have to negotiate.
It's just you.
As rested, Mr. Owens, do you have any intention on putting on a rebuttal in this case, sir? Yes, sir.
So remember, it's just weird that there was so much talk about calling Brian Boone and no one did. I don't know why the state didn't call him, honestly, in their rebuttal case. I suppose they didn't need to, honestly. The videos, they didn't really need to do much. They could have just played the freaking video. Like the videos was all you needed. Like that's just, you know, and the text messages, I guess too, but mostly those videos. But it's just no one else. Like that's it. Brian Boone was on stand for like 4 minutes. It's just wild. But anyway, every indication, like they had said initially, there'd been talk about a rebuttal, but then it sounded like they weren't going to. Is he going to say now they're going to? I will lose my mind. He's asking there. I mean, Sarah's going to have the final fucking say. Now that's if we have anything they can do. So, Sir Rebuttal.
We did not intend to put on a Sir Rebuttal.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Ms. Boone, I've got a couple of questions to go over with you, ma'am. You were previously sworn this morning.
Okay. I don't care. We're going to go.
That they may want to. Have you had a conversation with your attorneys about putting on a Sir Rebuttal? Or
he's doing this with her
usage of the fund from
because, you know,
through those 108 pages, moving from timestamp instruction. You and Mr. Torres communicated in text form as to what the tone was behind those words. Your lawyer advised me that there was an objection and you had some concerns as to the way Mr. J may have read those text messages to the jury. I found that
when that objection happened, remember when there was that approach? That was because Sarah said to her attorney that she had okay, I'm going to back it up. So this actually matters. She said that she had a problem with the tone of the way he was reading the text messages. Boy, oh boy, she's not changed a day, has she? Fucking hell, dude. You know, wow. Just wow.
in its entirety when they go to deliberate. Do you have any questions about that so far?
So far, no.
Fucking
Okay. The last portion, ma'am, pertained to the cadence or tone in which
she's in
you
charge
and
of
Mr.
everything.
Torres communicated with each other. I have no knowledge as to how you and Mr. Torres communicated in text form as to what the tone was behind those words. Your lawyer advised me that there was an objection and you had some concerns as to the way Mr. J may have read those text messages to the jury. I found that the way that he read them was benign in a flat tone and did not exacerbate or excite any of the language that was in there. He'd read them in as a monotone way as possible in presenting to the jury.
Yeah.
And I didn't notice any changes in his cadence or heightening or lowering in the volume or tense or tone utilized in presenting that information to the jury. Do you have any other questions for me, ma'am? Anything else we need to address, Mr. Owens?
So he's like, yeah, you think there's a problem with the tone was fine. But also I will say that, you know, that one, I think it was like the last message from that we saw there where he says something, he calls Sarah like, I love you, my angel, my blah, blah. And he's like, my queen. It's like Queen Sarah. That's what it was. She wanted someone who would treat her like a queen, call her a queen, whatever. If in her mind, treating her like a queen meant hitting her, she expected them to do what she said because she's the queen. This is where it gets into that kinky shit. You know what I mean?
Anything else we need to address, State? Okay. How would we like to?
But again, I have to say, I just have to just point it out. But also, it crosses many, many lines because clearly it's not consensual and in terms of the abusive element, and also it's illegal what was happening. So, you know, there's a safe way to do this.
Conference. Do we want to bring back on our jury? It is 10:33 and advise them this is when we think you want to come back because we're going to be addressing the law to provide to you. And that's something I need to do outside of your presence. How do we want to proceed at this time?
I think hopefully at 10:33 to about noon should do it for 3.6F. It is convoluted, but I think the parties have narrowed it down to really just a couple of things.
Okay.
So I would suggest saying something along the lines of we have to finish up getting the jury instructions ready for you. That's something that we have to do now after the evidence is concluded, and we'll see at 1.
I say 1:30, Judge, in the abundance of caution, because Mr. Henderson, I know this is going to be an issue, and it's going to take a little bit of time, and then we want to go to lunch and give them a chance because there's going to be a 3-hour speech session. I don't know if you give them a break in between prosecutor's statement and my statement. Or how you do
We
it.
may, depending on just the time of it.
Right.
But from
Well,
1:30.
Okay, I'll explain what's happening, but also I want to know when he plans on reading the jury instructions because some people read it, some judges read it, you know, prior to closing arguments, and some read after. I always think it's better to read it before. But let's just see for timing wise. Oh gosh, sorry. If he says we can read it.
4:30, so just before 5. I think that's plenty of time in case he goes a little bit longer. I go a little bit.
And I still have to read the jury instructions as well. So,
Yeah,
I mean, with 34 pages, and I read quickly, as Madam Court Reporter will advise me.
Are they gonna have
yes.
reading along with
Yes.
you?
So once we make all these changes, every member in the box will have a paper copy. You, Mr. Owens, and your team, along with Ms. Boone, will have a copy. The state will have a copy. Madam Court Reporter will have a copy, and I will. And I will read line by line all the way up into the 2.7 instruction. At that point in time, I will stop. I will advise our jury that we're going to begin with closings. State will go, you will go, state will have an opportunity for rebuttal, and then I'll finish with the verdict and final instructions.
Yeah,
Discharge our alternates at that time.
Okay. Yep.
I'll go back and thank them and give them their jury certificate forms, and then we'll release the jury. I'll have a final colloquy with your client, and then we'll review all the evidence to send back with the exception of the baseball bat.
And perhaps in case they haven't inferred, let them know that they're getting the case tonight, so make plans to stay later.
Yes.
How late are you going to keep them?
All right.
9 o'clock is the norm.
All right. So
because it's the weekend and it's Friday, I may seek special dispensation from the chief to stay longer.
Interesting.
I plan on communicating with the chief during the lunch hour as to that issue. If she'll let me. I don't know if it's at her
So are they bringing
discretion.
the in?
I know I have to seek approval after 7. I'm not worried about that. I know. And I would prefer them to work late into the evening if they're on board with doing that.
Like they remember in
Rather than
Ezra,
coming back Monday.
in Ezra, they stayed until like, it was really late, like 10 or 11 p.m. or something. It was crazy.
Okay. All right.
The jury wanted to.
If y'all would be so kind to give me a moment so I can go back up to chambers, get with Ms. Barrios, and I'll give paper copies of everything from the revisions that we made this morning. Let's go ahead and bring back in our jury. And I agree with Mr. Owens. I'd rather us waiting on them than them waiting on us. So I think 1:30 is the way to go.
1:30, there you go.
Let's go ahead and bring back in our jury. Recognize our jury.
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense, do you recognize our jury?
Okay, so this is just to get an idea of what's happening.
Members of the jury number 2 in the back, he's ready. He gets it. All right, can you raise those hands one more time for me? All right, record reflect. Hands have been raised as compliance with regard to the court's instructions. Members of the jury, all the evidence and testimony sought to be provided by the state and the defense have been provided to us over the last week.
They're probably like,
At this point in time, the state, the defense, and I need to discuss the law to be given to you in instructions. That's going to take a little bit of time. So we're going to go ahead and excuse you at this point in time for a longer lunch break than what you've had previously. And we're going to ask you to come back here at 1:30. At that point in time, the court will begin to instruct you on the law that you are to apply in this case. Then the parties will begin with their closing arguments. The state will go first, then the defense. Then the state will have the opportunity to rebut any of the defense's arguments. After hearing the closing arguments, the court will provide you final instructions before releasing you to deliberate in this matter.
All right.
We may work past 9 o'clock tonight. We may go late into the evening. So if there are any plans or things that you need to reach out to, as we discussed last week during jury selection, that we could work till late as 9, and we may work later than that this evening. If there's anyone that has any concerns as to working that late, please raise your hands at this time. Court sees no hands.
Okay.
I would also ask
Right,
if you could,
tonight,
please reach out to any family members or friends to, one, advise them that you're on the jury and we'll be deliberating this evening. And if there's any accommodations or issues with minor children or family that need to be taken care of, I would ask you that you take care of that during our lunch.
Here's what's going to happen. They're going to work on jury instructions without the jury, right? Jury's getting long lunch. If everything goes according to plan, then they will be ready for the jury to come back at 1:30. I would imagine if they take longer on jury instructions, then the parties will have a shorter lunch, right? But they have to make sure that Sarah Boone gets shuffled in and out and gets whatever they feed her, whatever gruel they feed her. It's a reference to the Office TV show. So let's just say, so 1:30. Now here's my thought. I think it's going to take 30 minutes from what I can tell for jury instructions, probably. That would mean starting closing arguments at 2. And we just heard Mr. Owen say something about 3 hours, but that does make sense because Judge Crane referenced something about 5 o'clock. So that means we can expect more than likely closing arguments around 2. And then him finishing, just like we see, he's going to finish reading those final instructions. I love that he's doing it that way. That's the way I prefer, where they get the bulk of it and then they get the final instructions with like the verdict forms. And it's going to be interesting because remember, there's lesser included. And another thing that happened this morning, I meant to mention this, but we went right into the text messages. This morning, for anyone who missed it, they added another lesser included, which was culpable negligence. So she's got her lead charge of 2nd-degree murder. Then she's got 2 lesser included. She's got the manslaughter and then culpable negligence. And the culpable negligence, I think the sentence there is like a year in prison. I don't think I don't see that happening. But like if that happened, she would be free to go because of time served. So, but they're getting that. That was a big win for the defense, though. Again, I don't think it's going to matter, but it was a big win for them. They're going to get that lesser included of culpable negligence, which is really what this case looked like from the beginning. That's kind of what this was looking like. If you were kind of believing, yeah, it was an accident. She went to sleep. She was drunk. That's culpable negligence. Like that's what it looked like from the outset, right? My view on that has completely changed. And again, we'll talk about that when we go through those videos. I think they should be adding more charges to her. I think she should have, that's fine if you want to have the lesser included under that lead charge, but I think there should be more charges coming that they could have done maybe, in my opinion. So so yes, so then he'll finish up those instructions, and then at 5 o'clock, it looks like the case will be handed over to the jury. Now, here's the thing. I would love, okay, here's the plan. So tonight we have the recap for days 3 and 4. And, you know, I'm actually really glad that the timing worked out, because I think that going through that testimony from Sarah on the stand and then her defense experts and looking at the pictures and looking at all is going to be so much more impactful now that we've seen those videos from yesterday and with these text messages and stuff. We have all the evidence, right? So that's the plan. Now, I will hope to be able to go live for the verdict. Now, Candace says hopefully they will be quick. Normally I'm with you on that, but I have to say in this case, I kind of hope they take longer and go into the evening, because I have lessons. So I would this is just on a personal level, like being selfish, like, you know, the verdict is when it is. I would love to be able to cover it live. So, you know, sometimes we hear this from other people like Laura, you know, or EDB, where it's like they're doing other things. You never know when the verdict's going to come in. And it's like, I hope it comes in here when I'm available. So basically where I have that recap scheduled is when I'm done with lessons. And I can't even remember what time that is. What time is it? Like 9:30, I think, maybe. I believe 9:30. I might be able to be done a little bit earlier, but somewhere around 9:30ish, right? So, so for example, if they have a really quick verdict, I might be able to be available like at 5:30, but I don't know that it'll be that quick. More like if it's between 6 and 9, I'm teaching. So, so that's why I'm like, either I hope they have like a really super quick verdict, or I hope they go past 9, because then what I can do is I can cover the verdict, and then we can start the, I can actually have it do that thing where it directs straight into the recap. So I can, like if the verdict comes out past 9, like if I will say this much, okay, like we'll be on verdict watch. Like if I get done teaching at 9 and there's not a verdict yet, we'll be on verdict watch. And, what we'll do is we'll wait to start the recap until we cover the verdict, and then I'll just have it redirect. But this is all going to be just kind of seeing how it plays out. But I think at least we know for the rest of the day what's going on up until 5 o'clock. And the big question mark is like what happens after 5, I think. So I think the jury will agree to stay late, and I think he'll get permission. The question is just, will they need to? And then how long? So yeah, Candace is all on board. Excellent. So stay tuned. I know you guys are going to be probably keeping up with what's going on, but I'll try to, you know, also put things in the Discord, because it's going to be a little bit of like, you know, now if the verdict happens earlier, you know, or if it happens while I'm teaching, then, you know, the recap will happen as scheduled. But if you guys want, you know, we can always watch the verdict. It would be rewatched right at that point, but we can always watch it if people want to watch that first and then do the recap. But it's just, I wouldn't do a separate stream. I don't think I'll do a separate stream if I'm able to cover it live. So anywho, but that's about it. So guys, thank you all for being here. You know, hopefully, we all can train our brains to say Jorge instead of George. I think that's really important in his memory. Yeah. All right. So stay tuned. Love you guys. And I will roll the outro.